Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and we are here on a video that I wanted to do for a little bit now, but I want to rate the current Evolve roster now that all the people have kind of left. I mean, obviously, this is after episode 51, so Jackson Drake will be leaving on the next episode, so I didn't include him. And some of this could change a little bit on that, but it might be a little premature, but I figured it's a good time to look over the current roster. It's a lot smaller than it feels like it is because when you think about it, you've seen most of these people on a semi-regular basis, but there's no big names left to a certain extent. Obviously, we'll get into that right now. Obviously, S tier being the best and D tier being the worst. And yeah, there'll be some different ways that we will rate some of these people in general. So let's start off with Luca Cristofino. We just got a promo on his new gimmick. I personally really didn't like it. I think it's very limiting to what he's going to be able to do, and I don't honestly think it's good in general. I think his ability and the stuff that he was doing before this wasn't bad. I think he had some decent matches. The lawyer gimmick was, also kind of limiting. So he kind of got stuck, especially when he's part of Tony D's family, and then Tony D's family broke up, kind of left him in a bad spot. So honestly, I think I'm going to put him in D. I do feel like out of anybody on this list, at least from what I can think of, that he has some potential to go up in this list, but it's hard to say. But next up, we have Ariana Grace. This one's a weird one because if I just looked at her WWE stuff, she probably should be in like the C. She'll always kind of have some spots, and it kind of look like she might have been a leading candidate to be the Evolve GM at one point, or at least been thought about it. But now that she's kind of just doing TNA stuff with being the TNA Knockouts champion, she kind of has a different ballpark that she's in. So I'm going to technically put her up in S tier because she's on a main roster, on a major top five promotion, doing stuff. Plus, she's also getting NXT time. So she's doing everything that you could think of that anybody on this roster would be happy to do. Is it well? I don't know. Does Knockouts run any good? Not really. But it's still a lot of stuff that not a lot of these people might get the opportunity to have in the next year, maybe even two. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Next up is Aaron Orr, currently the number one contender. Why I say this match might be, or this video might be premature, because I think he's the big one. Because if he beats Jackson Drake, I think his rating is much higher. If he loses to him, I think he kind of is still in the same of probably where we're going to put him now. But there's a lot of potential to get up there. So I honestly am going to put him up in A. I think there's a good possibility, especially if he ends up beating Jackson, he should be in the S tier because obviously he's the men's champion, and I think he's going to have a decent chunk of a title reign and have some defenses. So I think if he's going to be the man that they peg to do it, this is going to be kind of the big dog for a while. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do here. So I'm going to put him up in A. Next up is Braxton Cole. I think he just came back recently, and he's been kind of a side character. I don't think it's necessarily good or bad. Most of the matches he's been in has been like tag matches and stuff. I think he had one singles match, maybe two so far in his Evolve run. Nothing crazy, but I wouldn't put him towards the bottom because he's still in a major storyline. And what I've seen of him, it hasn't been bad. So I'll put him up in C. Next up is Aria Bennett. We haven't seen her in a bit. They did have the little red medical cross on her name, so I'm assuming she is out. I'm going to put her down in D just because of being injured, and when she's been there, she hasn't really had anything too crazy of a storyline or matches, so I think I'll put her down in D for the time being. Next up is Brooks Jensen. Again, it depends on what you see as being progress. I mean, obviously he had an okay run on NXT, got sent down to Evolve. He's been in a lot of the matches. He was on both of the PLEs that they've done, both Succession 1 and 2. So in Evolve standards, he's been doing great. But I haven't really seen him, go to that next level. Like, he doesn't feel like he's in the title opportunity area. And it doesn't feel like he's just kind of there to have some matches and kind of put over some of the other talent. But he ends up winning most of those matches. So again, how much is that helping out anybody? I think he's the perfect middle of the line guy to put into B because I wouldn't really say he's like the measuring stick that's Dante Jensfeld, but like essentially, like he is kind of one of those people that can elevate a feud by being put in there because he is like a tenured veteran compared to a lot of these people. So yeah. Next up is Cappuccino Jones. Now I really feel like he should have beat Jackson Drake. I really think that should have been the call that they decided to do last week, but they didn't, or the week before. Unfortunately, it's one of those things too with being the ID champion. They never mentioned that for either one. I don't really understand that to a certain extent. I mean, it's kind of be important in the Team ID PC thing. I think that would be kind of an important thing to kind of bring up. But it hasn't happened. Overall, every match that he's been in has been the most elite match. Like every match you can think of, the top 10 matches of Evolve, and he's been in most of them. I feel like he's kind of has everything going for him. I just really want to see him take that next step. So I really do think he should be champion at least at some point. And I think he's probably the best male on the roster currently. Next up is Carly Bright. This one is a weird one because she did not have that same trajectory that Kendall Gray had. They started at the same time, they were tag teaming. Everything seemed like either one of them could have taken that, but she didn't progress in that exact same spot. And I really do think that they should have had her turn heel on Kendall before Kendall got called up. I think that really would have really done something for her instead of her just like, I gotta do this on my own. Well, yeah, Kendall's been doing all this stuff on her own anyway, so I feel like there was a big missed opportunity to really solidify her character because if she would have turned heel, I think that could have really made her the woman on Evolve. Like, even if she wasn't the champion, she could have still been in every major feud and doing all this. But it just didn't happen, unfortunately. I'm gonna put her in C. I really wouldn't put her at the bottom. I think she still has some chance to get some opportunities, but I do really feel bad for her because it's really just like the perception of like making your matches count. Because if you see what Kendall Gray did and what Kendall Gray brought it and done, Carly Bright could have almost had the exact thing and had those same opportunities. It's just crazy how they chose one or the other. And at the moment, yeah, it looks like the greatest decision that they've ever made. So we'll see how that goes. I really do feel bad for her, but I really think that they missed that opportunity to turn her heel. Next up is Chantel Monroe. Has had some big matches, been in some good feuds, done some decent stuff. So I think she's kind of progressing pretty good. Obviously, her mic skills I think is her weakest part. Her in ring skills I think are pretty on par for what the main event scene of Evolve is. I think she definitely could obviously be better, but there's always going to be room for improvement in a developmental. So I'm gonna put her in B. I do think you could, if somebody said wanted to put her higher, I wouldn't be, against it. Then we got Riggs over here. Part of a tag team with Jax Presley. I think obviously when they tag team, I think their stock goes way higher. They just have that ability. He's had a couple solo matches, I think, or at least the one solo match that just happened, which I thought he did, pretty solid, and he had some decent move set. He's kind of a bigger guy, but can do some decent stuff. So I think he's pretty good. I think his mic skills are a little bit subpar, but I think overall that's hopefully why he's been kind of with Cam Hendricks, who has above mic skills. So hopefully that puts it together. So I'm gonna put him up in B. It's a little bit more of like I think he's going to be higher, but if you said he was C, I wouldn't also argue against it. Next up, we have Carmen. She's kind of a weird one to put in here because she had so much stuff in NXT, and honestly, like two years ago, like maybe even 3 years ago, I had so much praise for Carmen of being like she's in that prime position, but especially when they made that North American title, I think title was made for her, and they just put her in a terrible feud with like the love triangle thing between her and Nikita Lyons and Adonis. That thing killed all three of them. Like all three of them. Two of them are in Evolve and one of them's released. So I think that makes sense of what it is. So it kind of sucks. And then they put her in the feud of going down here and try to win the championship, which she didn't win. So that kind of made it really bad. And a lot of her moveset looks really good. She just does it a little too slow for my liking. It looks a little fake compared to other people who could do the exact same thing. If she can get that down, I think she could just be right back there in the area to do some stuff. So I'll put her in B. I think she's right in the middle of where she's going to be. Next up, I got Cam Hendricks. I think his in-ring work is just a little bit above average. I think it's suitable for Evolve, but his in-ring, like his mic work and everything else about it, is just it's superior than pretty much anybody on the roster. I think other than maybe like the way that Itzgall speaks, I think it's probably the only way that I'd say like possibly I'd say Itzgall's a little bit better because he obviously has like a weird gimmick where he just kind of says his name over and over again, and then he says other stuff in between. But the stuff that he does and articulates is like very douchey, but like he works really well with getting those words out to make you at least hate him, love him, whatever. So I think he might be the best on the mic overall out of everybody. But Cam Hendricks is a very close second, and he feels like he has less time. So I'm gonna have to give him a solid A. I just think he needs to work on his in ring a little bit, which is really not that bad. And I think like where he's set with the whole PC, team PC, team ID, I think they continue to do that storyline, even if it's a low key type of thing. He's going to have a lot of screen time and he's doing great. So I really do like him in that spot. Next up, we have Marshall Mathers, or Marcus Mathers. I say it every single time. Just honestly, top three in the ring easily. Not even like by choice or like an option. I don't think anybody can really deny that he's a top three wrestler in Evolve. I'll put him in a solid A. I think like again, not a lot of character work that they've given him, but I think he could easily be one of those guys that they can say, "Hey, you want the belt?" and he would run with it and have really good matches, which can really build up your fame than anything else. Next up, we have Dante Chen. He's another confusing one. He's been, on NXT, had some decent stuff up there, came down to Evolve. He kind of was going over the gimmick of being the measuring stick, and then he kept losing and not really having great matches a lot of the times. Like, they were okay. I think, like, that just part kind of killed his momentum a little bit. I still think he's salvageable. Obviously, he's about to have a feud with Anthony Luke. I think that will help both of them out. And I think overall I'd put him in a C. I definitely think he's one of those people that could really trend up. He has like a lot of room, and his ceiling is very high to this roster of where he could fit, but he also could just sit stagnant. Next up is Harlem Lewis. I think that gap that he took for LFG was probably the worst thing for his character because I really do think he would have been champion in that the thing, and I don't think LFG really boosted him up. He's kind of always just kind of played that like monstery type heel, and I think there's just too many heels in Evolve for that to work. I mean, he kind of got stuck with him and Kiana Carver because it was like, which one do you like better? Well, Kiana Carver was everybody's favorite monster because he just had the swagger behind everything. So then now Harlem Lewis is back, and he's like, okay, well, Kiana Carver's not here. Let me try to do that. But everybody else is like established, like different type of heels. Like you had the Vanity Project that are like the goofy, almost cowardly heels, and then you got obviously like Team PC that's kind of douches, but like to a certain extent, like they're just trying to fight for their livelihood because they feel like they belong here compared to people coming off from the independents. And then you just got another monster in there. It just he doesn't have like anything where he's fitting compared to everybody else. I mean, he's glad that he's the only one, so that there's going to be opportunities, but I don't think they're going to cash in on that him being a champion because I don't think his mic or character work is right where they want it to be. They had somebody like Jackson Drake in there for such a long time, and him being the only evolved champion, it's kind of hard to put somebody in there that's not going to have the mic skill to help him out. So I'm going to put him in B because I think his opportunities are going to be there, but that LFG time I think really killed him. Next up is Mike Cunningham. Came in as a cowboy, now is kind of like a frat douchebaggy type guy. His ring work is good, but the gimmick is going to be the killer of him. I'm gonna put him in C. I think there's still an opportunity for him, but like I'm not a big into the cowboy gimmick like I've had plenty of times on this channel as we have back-to-back cowboys. But I think with his it would have been better than this one because he's playing basically somebody that you want to hate, but he's trying to be a baby face, and he doesn't have that ability to pull that off. So he's gonna get kind of stuck. And unless he turns heel anytime soon, which they have way too many heels on the men's side of things, it's just not it. Next up is Tate Wilder. Now I've given Tate Wilder a lot of crap, but I've grown to like him a lot better. I think he's kind of in that prime position that like, dude, he could be Evolve champion within the next couple months. because of the way that he's been doing stuff. And I'm not necessarily opposed to it. His in-ring work has gotten a lot better. His mic work's gotten a lot better. He's really put in the work. So I'm gonna put him up in the A. That it might be surprising for long-term people that have watched my Evolve reviews, but I think he's really earned that spot. He kind of stopped just being that dumb cowboy to being like, hey, I like being a cowboy, but I'm also just doing this stuff and just kind of just developing a character in general, like as a person instead of just a gimmick. So I think it works. Next up, Callie Armstrong. Not much to say about her. She's just absolutely amazing. S tier. Easily could be on the NXT roster at any moment. She has everything. She's got the in-ring skills. She's got the mic. She's the best woman on the mic by far. Anybody on this roster, and probably the best worker than anybody else on this current roster. So easily S tier. Then we have Malik Blade. Barely have seen him. Not really much that we could say about him. I put him down in D. They've been using him every once in a while, but it's just not been anything. Next up is Layla Diggs. Now, this one's confusing to me because Layla has had some very big burst of just like, damn, that's a good match. That's a good move. That's a good fin. But then she just like goes in the next match and doesn't do it. So I'm a little confused. I mean, I feel like she really has that potential to being like that girl. Like she is the person that you should put the belt on and do that. But she also has the potential of just being in a tag team and just having screen time too. So I don't really know where to put her. I'm gonna put her in C, I guess, for the time being. I think she's had more inconsistency than she had consistency. But man, if she brings that giant scissor kick that she did a couple times, that was elite, and she really needs to do that again. Next up is Itzgall. Kind of a simple character, but he's very charismatic in what limited time he has. He does, when they use him in backstage stuff or whatever, it works really well. The segments are always, pretty entertaining. His in-ring work, I think, is, solid. I don't think it's the best thing that we've seen, but it's definitely better than some of the other people. I would put him up in A. I think he has a good opportunity here to possibly get somewhere like in the main event scene, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. Next up is PJ Vasa. Just lost a street fight currently. I think her in ring work is just not right to that spot. She came from LFG, and there was a little bit of like try to push for her, but it just didn't quite work. I don't think she's a complete lost cause. I think she definitely could get this on track. Her attitude that she has, like in her character and all that, is really elite, and I think she just stays heel and works on that in-ring work. I think she really could get somewhere. I do think like maybe a tag team would be good. The women don't have a lot of tag teams like that, but I think somebody like her getting with somebody that is possibly a heel. I don't really see anybody on the roster other than maybe like Chantel Monroe, and I don't know if that's necessarily the biggest call, but like maybe Nikita Lyons. I know she probably could do something with her. Like I think something like that could really help her out. Somebody where the other person could take over a little bit more of the mic stuff and the other stuff, and then just let PJ Vasa learn the in-ring stuff that like she could just add with the mic. So hopefully it's up and happens. I'm gonna put her in C. I know she just had a title opportunity, but I don't think we'll see her for a little bit of time because they're gonna have to rebuild her as a heel, and I don't think they're gonna invest the time. Next up, we have Zeta Sterling. Has a match next week on Evolve. Hasn't really had any good showings. Kind of been squashed in most of her matches, unfortunately. And the matches that I don't think she's won one, and if she did, it wasn't that impressive. I can't remember if she faced Laney Luck. I can't remember if that was the match that was really, really bad. I know Lady Luck was one of the competitors, but I can't remember if Zeta Sterling was the other. She was a lot better in LFG, had a lot more personality to be shown. She really needs that opportunity to. Being a babyface, especially on this women's roster, could really be big for her because there's not a lot of people that she could, do anything with. I honestly, if I was building a storyline, I would have her being the bubbly type to then try to hose on to Carly Bright and be like, oh yeah, your best friend went up there, and just keep ragging like to a certain step, like, oh, your best friend did this, you didn't like did this, you must be so proud, and lot and all that type of stuff, until eventually Carly then turns on her. I think that would be generational of story for this of Evolve, and it would really bring both of them up. So I'm putting her in C. If you put her a little lower, I honestly wouldn't be opposed to it. Next up is Phil London. Man's had a good packet, like that's such a bad phrasing on it, but like he's had some good video packages. He's had some decent story like of what they're trying to do with him, but him losing every single match does not help him. So put that down in D. Sam Holloway, it's kind of similar. Like he started off strong. I think they kicked him from the ID program, or he left the ID program. They brought him back, and he kind of lost all that momentum. He kind of looks like, he does really good ring work, but they just haven't really given him any type of like push. So I'm gonna put him in C. Obviously, just lost a match, so that kind of also really sucks for him. Nikita Lyons, I think she's a great heel to have on the roster. I think she works pretty well. The crowd, is pretty behind her. I think she has some decent move sets for her size and strength and stuff, but there's definitely some missing in every area of wrestling. I think there's just a little piece missing on each one to make her complete. I really do think she should have a big run here and probably be like the number one contender to really put over who the new champion is. Because I think it would just work out for her pretty well. I'm gonna put her in C. I think you could put her a little bit higher, but I'm kind of interested to see what they do with her now that Ariana Grace is not on the roster. At least doesn't seem like she'll be on it as much. Next up is Drake Monroe. He's had, some a really decent push. He's won every match. He's had a decent crowd reaction, had some decent, match in general. I think like most of his matches have been like C or above. I think they've been all C, but that's still not that bad. I think he's kind of primed to be maybe in that contendership for the main event, so I'll put him up in B. Then we get Jax Presley. I'd probably put him next to his tag team partner, but hopefully they'll be tag team partners whenever he gets back from, if he's actually injured or whatever. They currently are just saying that he got injured weightlifting. Lady Luck, it's hard to rate her high on here. She's gotten kind of just beaten in every match, and everything that she's done offensively has just not been great. I've seen matches with her on Independence, and that's just not who she is. So I really don't know what they're doing with her. I think she has a lot better stuff, but being for the ID champion, you'd think she'd be presented a little bit better. But I think I'd put her as the lowest rated woman across the board right now. Hopefully they build her up now that, there's some space and that's what they're going to do, but I don't know. Next up is Wendy Chu. She's had great progression from being the sleepy psychopath type killer to to being, now the bubbly therapy is good person. I like the change up. I like what she's done overall. I think all of it's been great for her character. I just think she needs that opportunity to get the title, and I really do think she should have to be a strong candidate to win the title, the vacated title. So I'm putting her up in A. I could see her moving up, especially if she wins the title. Next up is Terry May Still. I just think that last match with Kendall Gray really wasn't her thing. I think she'll still get opportunities because they really want to see if this LFG would work. And I think she has a great building block to do this. I just don't know if it's going to all come together. I really do think they need to settle in if she's a heel or a face and really have her lean into it. I think she should be a face because of her bubbly personality, but a lot of people are like, well, no, she needs to be a heel and whatever, because they're just trying to make her like heel Kurt Angle, and I don't think it's working. So I'm gonna put her in C. I do think she's going to get some opportunities. And then we'll get Mason Holiday. I'll put her right next to her tag team partner. She's definitely the worst out of the two. I think she still has a lot of, things to go, but them putting them in the tag team, I think it's definitely hit a lot of their, negative aspects. So that has been good. But yeah, but that is the roster currently from top to bottom. I mean, I think it's pretty, most people would agree. Tell me if you guys have any personal favorites. I mean, I honestly think anybody in the B or above, it has some pretty good chance to have a good year. There's people in C, honestly, are just there. They just really need something to click. And then in D, obviously, there's some people who just in a little bit of a momentum loss, but it doesn't mean that they're completely out. So hopefully they can survive the next upcoming year and do some pretty good, decent stuff. But if you like these type of videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.